we are going to integrate now backend services into our applications. As everything is in a repository, we are going to go from this step to this other step. They are in two different branches of GitHub. In these URLs, you can see the code or download it, as always. So, for starting this implementation, this functionality, you can go here and download the code, and you can follow this video. What are the steps that we are going to do? Well, the first step will be to install Redux Thunk. Then we will modify the Redux provider to integrate Redux Thunk. We will create the fetch actions, and we will dispatch these actions from the component did mount, and we will have a new prop continue in the game. Finally, we will create the fetch reducer, and in the game we will render different user interface depending on the fetch state, what happened. As a first step, we will install and save, of course, Redux Thunk. It will provide us this possibility to create more complex actions, remember. Now we go to the Redux provider in our application and import Thunk from this new library, Redux Thunk. And how do we integrate it? Well, we go to the constructor in the place where we create the store, the Redux store, and here into the third param we have the enhancers. Now we can add another enhancer here, Thunk. We combine both into the apply middleware and with the compose method that Redux provides. So this is very easy to do, and just add Thunk here. Now we are going to add some constants. In our constants file, we export a new const and we call it fetch. Well, as we saw, it is fetching, the initial state is false, finished, the initial state is false, and error, the initial state is null. We have no error, we are not fetching, and we are going to create also now, we are going to export it, the API to call it. We are going to use a very simple external service that is this one here, i216a. So we now add this new constant and this new constant. You can go and see this content is just a state of our app, and we are going to fetch this state, but in the future it will be depending on the user or what is stored on local store or whatever. Okay, let's continue. To create the actions, now we go to the actions file. Previously we only had this play position action, and now we are going to add more actions to deal with the fetch status. So export function fetch state begin. This is a very simple action just to change the state, so it will return just the fetch state begin, a very simple JavaScript object. The second action will be fetch state success. This action receives the JSON that we received in the success case, and it will return two things: the type, as always, that is fetch state success, and this JSON, well, we can call it state, JSON received. The third action will be fetch state failure, that will receive the error and will return the type as always, and the error. So these are three very simple actions that just plain JavaScript objects. We are still not using Redux Thunk, and just for convenience we are going to use or to create a util, because the new fetch API, HTML5 API, won't handle errors. So we are going to create a handle errors utility that gets the response, and that if the response is not okay, it will say something in the console, error plus response status text, and will throw the error saying response status text. And if everything goes okay and the response is okay, it will return the same response. It won't do anything. So we've got now these three very simple actions with some content in these two cases, and this helper just to treat with the error cases. We are going to use now these three simple actions and the helper to create a more complex action called fetch state. Well, this action will use Redux Thunk, and so it can be, instead of a plain JavaScript object, it can return a function. This function, as you know from Redux Thunk, or you can see it in the documentation, receives dispatch to be able to dispatch actions and the getState, but we only get dispatch because we are not going to use the getState. So now the first thing we do inside this action is to use this dispatch to dispatch a fetch state begin. In the reducers, with this fetch state begin, we will set the state to fetching, and as a second step we get and we perform a fetch, an HTML5 fetch to the API from the constants. Let's import it, just not to forget it. So import the API from constants, that it // constants, because it is in the upper folder. Perfect. When we do this asynchronous action, we get a promise, and in the promise, when we get the result, we will call our helper function to handle the errors, because fetch doesn't handle the errors. This handle errors function, remember that will throw an error. If there is an error, we will get it in a catch, and if not, it will return the response. That we get it here, and from the response we return the JSON. This is because our API has the JSON inside, and then from the JSON what we are going to get, what we are going to do is to dispatch another action. In this case is a success. Remember, we only get to this point if we have success, and the final step will be to add a catch with the error, and you can console log the error if you want, of course, and return dispatch of fetch state failure with error, just to change the interface. It looks quite complicated, but let's see it in a more simpler way. We import, of course, the API from the constants, and now we've got a complex action that uses this Redux thank. It returns an action, a function, sorry. And in the first place, it uses fetch state begin, so we are fetching. So tell the reducer that something happened and change the state to say that we are fetching. Then React will in the interface set the user interface to say with a spinner or a loading or whatever that we are fetching, and start fetching, of course. Do the Ajax call. If there is an error, throw it and change the interface also with this fetch state failure with the error. And if there is no error, we get the JSON, and from the JSON we dispatch a success, and the reducers will set the new state that we got from the backend service. So this is the key of the new functionality.